At this time, we will now begin today's teleconference, and we start this morning with Bethune-Cookman head coach Vanessa Blair-Lewis. Bethune-Cookman finished last season with a 21-11 overall record, going 15-1 in conference play to win the regular season title before falling in the MEAC tournament championship game and earning a bid to the women's NIT. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. First of all, Coach, last year you won 21 games, earned a second straight trip to the women's NIT. Talk about that experience and what it means to the players who will be coming back this season.
Well, I think it was a vital part of our season last year, a vital part of our path to going from where we were to where we wanted to be. And the young girls on the team that were freshmen, when we really committed ourselves to turning this program around, the Kendra Coopers, the Kaylin Williams, the Taylor Houstons, those that just graduated, really were the ones that put us on their back and took us to these games, took us to these great seasons that we had back-to-back. But there were some young kids that we were able to acquire along the way, and now it's time for them to step up and, carry the yoke. And they've had really great mentors in these young ladies, and I believe that they're really ready to step up and continue this tradition we've begun.
You mentioned the two greats in Kendra Cooper and Kaylin Williams. Who are you looking to sort of fill their roles, not necessarily replace their production, but fill the roles that they played?
Well, I think that's going to go across a lot of players, but primarily and most importantly, one of our preseason votes for preseason first team, Ashanti Hunt, is definitely ready to step in and fill that role. She started and played with them both of her freshman and sophomore years, so she understands the ethic and the work that it takes to, be a champion. And she is a captain for us this year. She's a leader on and off the floor. She definitely is ready to step up and fill those big shoes. And then I think that the rest of it is going to come from a myriad of players. Angel Golden, who backed up Kendra Cooper in shooting, probably a better shooter than Kendra Cooper as far as getting the shot off a lot quicker. She's going to have those roles, but she's been ready. She's been primed to step into this role and replace a Kendra Cooper. She just didn't have the minutes behind Coop, who garnered 36-plus minutes a game. But she's ready. She's ready for that role. And then we have some freshman guards, I know you'll get to that in a minute, that have come in and are able to distribute some minutes along the 40-minute playing time that we're going to need.
Coach, you mentioned Ashanti Hunt before. What makes her so unique?
Her versatility. She's 5'10", she's long, she's athletic. She can play it inside for us. She can play outside for us. She is a tenacious defender. She is the best well-rounded player that we have on our team, and she has the mind of a champion.
You mentioned briefly the freshmen that you're looking for this year. What have you seen from them in the first few weeks of practice?
A lot of turnovers. But no, we are really blessed to be able to have our freshmen on campus in the summer, and to kind of get acclimated to what a Division I schedule is going to be like. And so they had a really great summer, really got their eyes open to the challenge and the work ethic it's going to take to put into being a Division I player. So when we were able to move into them coming back for the fall and conditioning and all that entailed, they really just stepped right up, and they know when they were recruited that they were recruited to continue something special here. And I think that, we have some amazing young ladies that are going to give us a lot this season.
For the second straight year, Coach, you won at least a share of the regular season title. You won it outright last year, but both years you came up short in the tournament. What's the missing piece to taking that next step and winning the tournament championship as well as the regular season?
Well, initially when we went the year before last, it was the first time in history that this program has ever won the conference, or like you said, shared the title with North Carolina A&T. And, I think for those young ladies who were juniors at the time, the Kendra Coopers, the Kaylin Williams, they were almost starstruck of themselves. They were a little nervous, like, wow, we've never been here before. And it showed because we lost in the first round. I think there was so much pressure on them that they put on themselves that they had never been here before. And then last year it was like, okay, we understand what we're supposed to do now. We've done this before. We've been here. They settled in early in the conference season and realized that every game, mattered. And then when we got to the tournament, we were able to, win those first two games and get to the tournament where this program has never been in 40 years. So it was another milestone. And what it's going to take this year is for us to just get over the hump, to kind of get out of our own way, to be ready to play on that, third day or second day, whatever day that may be, and for the young ladies to get ready to step into, a new tradition here at Bethune-Cookman.
Coach, give us a little bit of insight as to your schedule this season, taking a look at it. I know it includes a trip down to play Miami. Talk about your schedule for the upcoming season.
Well, we're blessed to be in a state with so many great teams, Division I teams, where we don't have to really leave our backyard too far to find some great competition. And this year it'll be just that. We go down to face University of Miami, who was second round in the NCAA this year, Jacksonville University, who was in the WNIT this year. We also played Texas State in the Stetson tournament, who played in the postseason in the WBI. So it won't be without our share of challenges, even though we don't have to go far from home. In our backyard is very stiff competition.
We are now joined by Coppin State head coach DeWayne Burroughs. The Eagles finished tied for 6th in the MEAC last season with an 8-8 mark and an overall record of 8-21. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're good. Coach, first question. After finishing in the middle of the pack in the conference last season, what are your expectations for the Eagles this year?
We're very young. We're very young. We brought in 4 freshmen and 4 sophomores, and the sophomores fortunately have some experience of playing last year in the conference. And we do have our leadership back from Genesis Lucas and Candace Beverly. So I'm looking forward to them just leading us this course this year and helping these freshmen and sophomores along the way.
You already mentioned your returners in Lucas and Graham, Coach. Graham is the reigning Rookie of the Year in the conference. Both players have made the preseason All-MEAC teams. Talk about how important their roles will be for such a young team this season.
Their roles are going to be huge. Both of them have, a year under their belt. Well, Chance has a year under her belt, and Genesis is, going into her senior year. And they both have been showing great leadership qualities so far in practice, and just trying to get this younger group ready for the season.
You've already mentioned how young your team is this season, Coach. Talk about some of the incoming freshmen and what you've seen out of them in the first few weeks of practice.
We have to name the top 2 so far has been Camille Downs and Sahai Corby. Camille Downs out of Northern Virginia. She was Virginia's 6A Player of the Year last year. She just came in. She's doing extremely well right now. And Sahai Corby was Player of the Year out of New York City. So they're both going to be huge role players. They're going to step in immediately and get the opportunity to start probably at this point and show their talent. I just think they're going to be a great fit for what we do here.
Coach, you opened the season with quite the test, going on the road and taking on national power Baylor. Talk about the challenge that presents, and then discuss your schedule for the season as a whole.
Yeah, we open up at Baylor. Of course, we will be outsized, and I just think our preseason, our postseason, our schedule starting out is really tough, and I just think that prepares us for the tough games that you're going to play in conference. We go to Texas and play Baylor and Stephen F. Austin, and come back against Mount St. Mary's. Then we go to University of Cal's having a tournament. We got Missouri at that tournament. Then we got Old Dominion, UNC Charlotte, and Middle Tennessee, West Virginia, just to name a few. We got Maryland at home, which is going to be a great game for us. So I just think that tough schedule is really going to have us ready and prepared to play when we get into MEAC play. Our underclassmen will grow up really quick, though, with that schedule.
Coach, one last question from me. You've mentioned your youth. You've mentioned that against certain teams you'll be outsized. If Coppin State is to make a run, not just in the regular season, but in the conference tournament, what's the one thing that needs to happen?
Take care of basketball. I just think if we take care of basketball, we have fortunately brought in some people who can score the ball. So I just think one of our main concerns that we did we were averaging almost 20 turnovers a game last year. So I think if we can cut that in half, I think we'll be in every basketball game. So my main concern for us this year is making sure we're taking care of basketball.
And I promise, Coach, this one is my final question.
Okay.
You're entering your second year, correct?
Yes.
What's the biggest difference going into year 2 as opposed to year 1?
Last year I got the job in late August, and I pretty much had the team that was here. This year we actually had the opportunity to go out and recruit and bring in some kids that we want that's going to be a big part of our program, not just this year, but the next 3 or 4 years. That's going to turn the program around.
We are joined now by Delaware State head coach Barbara Burgess. The Hornets were 3-27 overall and 2-14 in the MEAC that last season. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Coach, last season was your second year at the helm at Delaware State. Talk about the experience of coaching at your alma mater.
It's been a good experience, even though we had a rough year last year. That's all I know is Delaware State, so that's home for me. So I'm truly blessed to be there. Just got to get this program turned around.
And it seems like one of the key pieces in that turnaround will be Najai Pollard. Obviously, your best returning player, led the conference in scoring and rebounding last season, was just voted the preseason player of the year in the conference. Talk about what
very good. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Talk about what she means to the program.
She means everything. She goes hard every day, and she's been going hard the last 2 years. Just hard-nosed player. She's all about basketball in her books, and that's what she's expressed. And throughout her last 2 years, and it's just showing on the court that, she comes in every game and prepared and just go hard for 40 minutes. And that's really pretty much what she's been averaging the last 2 years is 40-plus minutes.
In addition to Pollard, who are some of the other returners you're looking to step up this year?
Lanesia Ash, that played a lot of minutes as a freshman. Alicia Sharp, that played a lot of minutes as a freshman. Janaea Addison, that came on towards the end of the year. And Kaya Abrams. Those were my, returners. And then I had a transfer to sit out, Sanaya Williams, expecting some good things from her this year. Even though she came in January, this will be her first year playing at Delaware State.
You've had a few weeks of practice underway. How are some of the newcomers coming along? Who's standing out to you from that crop of players?
Kiki Barber, Arion Jackson, I think are going to be some impact players for this year. Kiki plays the 3, and Arion can play the 3, 4, or the 5. But they are looking very promising, along with Sanaya Williams, that will be our center.
And Coach, looking at your schedule for the coming season, some tough matchups. You play Kansas, you play Michigan, you play Florida. Talk about your schedule for the season.
When we're trying to when we go through our schedule and we kind of look at those games that's going to be challenging for us. I just ask the girls to come out and just do their best. And I think with the balance we have this year, we should make some good runs at those games. And it's going to be a growing game. They're going to be some growing games for us, show us what we're really made of and how tough we can just really grind out each day.
Is that a schedule that you build looking toward the conference slate that starts in January?
That's about right, yes. Try to get some good competition in, and I think there's going to be some good competition. And I think with that being said, going into January, it's going to be some experience under our belt and getting ready for our conference play.
Well, talk about the mindset of your returners. You mentioned how much of a struggle last season was. Do you ever see where it looks like they're down on themselves about that, or do they keep the attitude pretty positive and upbeat?
Not so much this year. I think with the new pieces we have, the energy is totally different, and they are just kind of beating off the newcomers. You know, we really don't dwell on the past. We just kind of uplift them, and I just have always told them, you know, y'all got a lot of experience as freshmen, and of course Najee just trying to keep her encouraged, and she's kind of the leader, and so they kind of feed off her, and if they feed off her, that's a positive all the way around because she brings it every day. You know, she brings it every day in practice, and it's always positive. And so we're just trying to pump a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive reinforcement to them, and just getting them to believe that they can do that. And that's kind of how we ended the year, even though we didn't do well. But if you look at how we were ending the season, we wasn't getting blown out. You know, I would say maybe the last 4 games, we wasn't getting blown out. We would come back and fight. You know, I know towards the stretch we did, like Howard, we didn't play well, and Morgan, we didn't show up. But the other games towards the end of the season, we were there. We were in there, in the game, in the thick of things, but we just couldn't overcome, I would say, the last fourth quarter.
We are joined now by Florida A&M head coach LeDawn Gibson. The Rattlers tied for 4th in the MEAC last season with a 9-7 record, going 13-19 overall. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Coach, you're entering your 10th season at Florida A&M. You know, one of the longest tenured coaches in the conference. Talk about the journey and the progress of the women's basketball program since you've been there.
It's been a good journey. The league is getting more competitive every year. It's been great. It's been you know, every year you think you're getting better, but every team gets better every year. So it's been a very hard journey as well.
Yeah, talk about how big of an impact you would expect your returners to have this season, highlighted by Shakira Morrison, who is a preseason second-team honoree.
I expect a lot from our returners. You know, it was a very rough season for us last season, the lack of experience that we did have, but the experience that they gained last season is going to be very vital for this year, especially from Shakira Morrison. She came in, she worked hard this summer, so she's more focused this year. Even though she had a pretty good season last year, she's way more focused this year, and expecting a lot from her. She's expanding her game a lot more this year as well. And the returners around her that's coming back is a lot more focused. They're on a mission this year, and I respect that from them.
You described last season as a tough season, but you did make a nice little run during the conference tournament. You won your first round game, and then you advanced to the semifinal round. Talk about that experience and what that means for your returning players.
Well, I think we came together at the right time. You know, non-conference, we didn't do that well, but that's, preparing ourselves for conference play. So we came together at the right time. You know, we started playing better in conference play, and Shalonda Bernie Robertson was coming off an ACL injury, so she didn't make an impact like I thought she would, and she's playing much more fluent and much better this year. Our 6'4" center, we made it to the semis. The girls just played with a chip on their shoulder, going into conference play last year. And the feeling they felt when they lost in the semifinals, I told them, remember that feeling going into conference play this year. Matter of fact, going into the entire season. So, in all season this year, I wanted them to remember that feeling. That was my speech going into, all season this year. Remember that feeling that you felt when we lost in semifinals. And that's what you're going to remember, and that's what we're going to practice for. Because you've worked hard, and now it's time to, bring it all together and bring these newcomers in and work. And they've worked. Attitudes are great. The atmosphere is great. So, we're looking forward to a pretty good season.
Coach, talk about some of the newcomers you have, and who stood out within the first few weeks of practice.
We have a transfer from Chipola, Alma Okafor. She played at Chipola Community College. She looks real good. She's working hard. Gabriella Holston, she's a grad transfer from East Carolina. The leadership she brings with that 5th year, she's going to be a very big impact for us. And, those two really stand out for me right now as far as the transfers and newcomers. And then we have a couple freshmen that's going to come in and be immediate impact. Michaela Thomas, she's a 6'2" freshman from Miami. Her basketball IQ is just so, off the charts. I think she's going to come in and make immediate impact as well.
Coach, looking at your schedule for the coming season, your non-conference slate features games against the Alabama, Texas Tech. Talk about the schedule overall for the coming year.
Well, non-conference, I think it's going to be a tough non-conference schedule, but we put together a tough non-conference schedule to prepare ourselves for a conference schedule because I think we have one of the toughest conference in this country. We just want to prepare ourselves and be very competitive within the conference. We play Texas Tech, Kansas State, like you say, Alabama. Just trying to prepare our young ladies. Our key is to stay healthy. We just want to get out there and have a good showing and represent our conference and do what we need to do to get ready for the conference and be very competitive when we get into conference play.
Coach, one last question from me. Knowing what you have in your team down in Tallahassee, knowing what the league as a whole is, what's the biggest key to a successful season for your team this year?
For them to stay focused and staying healthy. I think that would be two biggest things for us, to stay focused and staying healthy.
Coach, you finished third in the conference last year despite a litany of injuries, and you won the tournament title against seemingly all odds. Can you talk about the season you had last year?
Injuries are part of the game, but we just thought that was a bit extreme. We lost Malia Tate DeFreitas, who was 94 points from being the conference leading scorer all time. We lost Ashley Bates to a torn labrum, Chanel Green to a broken ankle. It was just a tough season all the way around to try to piece it together.
And yet you still managed to do it, even though you suffered another injury during the championship game.
Yes, Kayla Lupo was really having a great, I think she had 8 or 10 points at the beginning of the championship game against Bethune-Cookman and turned her ankle and could not return. So therein lies the fourth starter and young lady fought and were able to pull it out.
But before I ask anything else, among everybody who's coming back, are they healthy now?
Excuse me. We have 2 freshmen who are injured, and one is scheduled to have surgery. So, no, I don't know if it's in the water around Hampton or whatever, but we've got 2 injuries already.
You do have a lot of talent returning. You got 1 player on each of the 3 preseason teams. But this will be the first year in a long time that you're coming in without Malia Tate DeFreitas. Is there an adjustment there, or did the fact that you went a lot of last season without her help in that?
Well, obviously you can't replace Malia Tate DeFreitas in terms of her her experience and her ability to score. Her ability to seemingly take over games at periods of time, you're just not going to be able to do that. However, with her being injured last year, we had to play different. We go less ISO, ball movement, a little bit more. Everybody has to depend on everybody. A little bit more, can't wait for Malia to save us. So we've had the opportunity to do that, so I think we'll be okay.
You do have 2 returners who were on the all-tournament team last year in Finney Smith and Jeffany Brown. Talk about what you expect from them this season.
Well, Jeffany got injured. Jeffany Brown got injured at the beginning of the year and really never seemed to get going until the tremendous talent, tremendous athlete, can play inside and out, and we expect her to continue what she did in the MEAC tournament. Finney Smith was probably our most valuable player last year. Provides tremendous leadership out there, tenacity on defense. She 6'3", a great interior passer. So I look for those two to lead us.
Now, looking at your schedule, it looks like a typical Hampton non-conference schedule. Your first 6 games are on the road. You're taking on schools like North Carolina, Virginia, Oregon. Talk about your schedule for the coming season.
Well, it's another tough one. Oregon, going to the Sweet 16. Quinnipiac going to the Sweet 16. We just try to prepare ourselves, and play the toughest non-conference schedule possible. We want to challenge ourselves right away. We play on the road. I think that helps bond teams so that they, learn to lean on each other a little bit. So it's definitely a gauntlet of competition coming up.
Coach, that concludes all of my questions. We will now open the call for questions from the media.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register a question is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your registration, you may press the 1 followed by the 3. If using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. Once again, it's the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone to register a question. We do have a question from the line of David Johnson with Daily Press. Please proceed.
Morning, David. How are you?
Good morning.
You may have addressed this earlier. I was a tad late. I noticed Lupo is not on the roster this year. Does that have anything to do with the injury she had towards the end of the season?
No, nothing at all to do with the injury or anything like that. She's just not playing this year.
Will she come back the following year?
Yeah. She's she's in a program where her classes are sequential.
I see.
And she can't miss. She can't be out for long. She's an architect major, so that'll tell you everything you need to know right there in terms of sequential. So you want to be able to, at the end of the day, work with them to achieve their dreams off the court. And so,
right.
We work with her to do that.
Toward that end, you were sort of lacking size to begin with. You have Michaela back, but inside, how do you feel about the post players you have right now?
Well, the thing is that the post players can't get all the rebounds. The guards have to help rebound. We've got some long. Jeff needs a good rebounder. Finney Smith's a good rebounder. We have a new kid who transferred into us from Minnesota, Alina Starr, who has size as well. So we'll be very long along the wing, and we ought to be able to transfer that into rebounds.
You have, I think, 3 freshmen, if I'm counting right. Do you expect any of them to make an impact early?
Well, we have 4 freshmen, but
yeah,
2 are hurt. 2 are hurt, so we'll bring them along slowly. 2 of them have missed a significant amount of time in preseason. With a freshman, that's a lot. That's tough. Ashley Bates is back from her injury, so that that'll certainly help us. And I thought that Dejanay James, had a great MEAC tournament and kind of stepped up and took the point guard mantle for us. So I think we'll be okay.
I'm sorry, I think you were talking about the 2 players 2 freshmen who got hurt when I got piped in. Who are they?
One is Ashley Walker. and the others shall be hardened.
Okay. Coach, talk about the Bison last season. You went from 4 wins in conference play to 12.
Yes, it was a very interesting first 2 years, and obviously, like you said, we struggled our first season, and then not knowing what was to be expected for round 2, and we ended up having such a big turnaround, and I was just proud of how we kind of figured out how to get it done.
Talk about some of your returners, what you expect out of them this season, especially since you're now without reigning player of the year into Shai Heslop.
Well, we have 7 sophomores and 5 freshmen and 2 seniors. So, we do have, a young team, but, they got to play. And I'm expecting everybody to step in some kind of role and contribute because they're all going to get an opportunity. And, we'll see who shows up.
Who have been the standouts for you within the first few weeks of practice?
Sarah Edmond, who was all rookie team last year, a sophomore from New York, has definitely, been doing well this preseason, along with Jayla Miles, who had another sophomore who had some injuries last year, but she was, kind of up and down, but also made the all-rookie team. We have Imani Bryant, who was back from an injury from last year. She didn't get to play much of the MEAC, but had garnered a couple of MEAC all-rookie Rookie of the Weeks last year. So those 3 have definitely showed some leadership and, getting ready to go into the season.
Coach, talk about how the newcomers will impact the team this season.
Well, they're definitely going to get an opportunity, like I said before, and, that's about as much as I can give you right now. They're working really hard. They're still learning and growing and, learning me and learning our system. So the opportunity for them is great because we have such a young team. So they're looking forward to it, and we'll see how they respond.
Your schedule for the coming season includes contests against Georgia, Maryland, and Georgetown. Talk about your upcoming slate of games, what the schedule looks like for the season.
Like everyone else, the non-conference always presents a challenge when you play those bigger teams, the BCS teams. But we have some games in there that we're hoping that we can at least split when after we play those teams like a Maryland and a Georgia. But we just get prepared for every game. It's not necessarily get ready for the MEAC. We want to play to try to win the games in the non-conference as well. So it'll be a challenge, but we're up for it.
Coach, there is one final question from me. Given the youth and makeup of your team, what is the most important factor in Howard making a run, not just in the regular season for the MEAC title, but in the tournament come March as well?
Just staying healthy and improving every day. I think when you have youth, you're still learning. It's always a process. I know that's with any team, but when you have a lot of kids who don't know one another quite yet, and they're still learning the system and the coach, it's just a process every day. So just daily improvement. Game by game, we need to improve, and we need to get better each week. So that's definitely what I've talked to my team about, and hopefully that we're staying healthy because I know that definitely affects your season overall.
We're now joined by Maryland Eastern Shore head coach Fred Batchelor. Maryland Eastern Shore finished last season with a 6-10 mark in conference play, going 13-16 overall. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Coach, you're entering your 14th year, one of the longest tenured coaches here in the MEAC. Talk about the progress you've seen with the Maryland Eastern Shore women's basketball program over the years.
Well, I've been fortunate and blessed to serve as the head coach here at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and playing in one of the toughest leagues in the country, very competitive league. It's been tough for us to kind of generate the type of success that we would like to have. But at the same time, I think we've been very competitive and we've represented the institution very well in the time that me and my staff has been here. So we're excited about the future, and we want to build on some of the things that we've been able to accomplish in my tenure here.
You have key starters returning in Siani Byram and Alexis Hicks. Can you talk about what you expect out of them and from some of your other returners?
Yeah, I think with losing CC last year to ACL tear in the first conference game, that was a big loss for us, and I don't think we handled it quite as well as some of the other programs that had similar type of injuries, such as Hampton. I think that's something that we learned from. We were a little young last year, and then having some non-conference success, and then going into conference play and losing your best player. I don't think we handled that well. As you can look back at our season last year, we had some success with some of the tougher teams in the league, particularly the two teams that won the league. However, we were not able to consistently play at a level that would put us in being one of the top teams in the league. So I think having gone through losing CC last year and what we had to do, I think it's prepared us to deal with adversity a little bit better in the future. Where she's working to get back, we're expecting her to be on the floor by conference play, and she's going to be a tremendous asset for us to have her. Alexis Hicks has really been a bright spot for us. Last year she was our team MVP. As a senior, this year she's come back and she's what you want to see from a senior. Her mental, her focus, her concentration, her determination, her leadership. I'm just excited about having an opportunity and really pleased to see a kid develop from a freshman to a senior and have someone that I feel that we can depend on, especially in light of the fact that we're still waiting for CC to come back. So those two kids, along with Victoria Morris, who's going to be a senior this year for us. Last year was her first year on the floor as a transfer. She is also she's going to play center for us. Having her back as a senior is going to help us, I believe. And I think she learned a lot from playing last year. So I'm expecting our two seniors to really play a huge role in leading us to and having the type of mindset that we need to be successful night in and night out.
Do you anticipate Byram's return soon, or is she still out for quite some time?
We're expecting her back. She probably won't be back until middle of non-conference. That's the goal. The goal is to get her back by December. Hopefully we'll get her back on the floor. She's been working out with the team, but on limited, no 5-on-5s as of this point. But we're hoping that over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to transition her. She has another doctor's appointment very soon. And as soon as she's cleared, she's ready to go, we'll be able to throw her in and kind of allow her to adjust to getting back from the injury as well as, not playing last year. So it's a real touchy situation with your ACL tears and getting them back, and we want to err on the side of caution. So we've been very slow in regard to kind of pushing her back in, but we hope that when she is back, she's going to be able to go 100%.
Coach, talk about some of the newcomers and what role you expect them to play this season.
Well, I'm really excited about my junior class that includes CC and Kiera Eaton and Regine Martin. I kind of feel that they're the core of our program as juniors. I think as you look at the success of most programs, it's done when you have strong classes. And this is a class that I believe is, I'm really excited about having. I thought last year they were really going to make a mark in the league, and then, CC went down in the first conference game, and then Kiera missed a lot of games in conference play with an injury as well. So those three kids in our junior class, I'm really excited about what they're going to bring. But we have a few new additions. We brought in a junior college transfer by the name of Dominique Walker out of Hartford Community College, and she is a uniquely special player that I believe that once she handles the adjustment from junior college to playing at this level, she's going to be able to help us. The non-conference is going to be a learning experience for her, but I'm excited. I think she'll be a great fit in our league, and I think she'll be a kid that can help us have some success in our league as well. That group that's a solid group for us as juniors. And then we were fortunate enough to get two fifth-year transfers that have come in and shown that they're definitely going to make us better. They're great kids. They work on their master's degrees, and we're very fortunate to have Martha Thompson, who's a transfer from Xavier, a wing player that really is going to help fill the gap that Morgan Sabrisky left with losing her. She was just a great all-around player, and getting Martha has truly been a blessing because there's a big wing she's able to kind of do a lot of different things. So that's going to help us fill that hole. And then Jordan Smith, transfer from Towson, who we were really fortunate to get her because we were really slim in the back in the front court. Our post was really not solid, and so we got her, and she's going to step in, I think, right away and help us. So I'm excited about those kids and what they're going to bring as experienced Division I players coming in to help us fill some holes with what we had from last year, what we lost.
And Coach, now looking at your schedule, you've got games against Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear you were an associate member of the ACC. Let's talk about your schedule for the coming year.
It's a really tough schedule. We play 7 of our 11 non-conference games on the road, which is tough, not to mention playing against the teams that we're playing against, but to have to play those teams on the road is a huge challenge for us. And we're hoping that it's only going to make us better like everyone else in the league is doing, but at the same time that it doesn't beat you up too badly. So, we're excited about the opportunity to go to Alaska and play in the Great Alaskan Shootout, and those teams will include, the host team, Alaska Anchorage, who we'll tip off with, and then the following 2 teams will be either Binghamton or Tulsa. So we're excited about that experience, having our girls to be able to go and get into an environment like that. But it doesn't get any easier for us as we come back, and we do have some very, very tough teams on the road. But like all the other teams, all the other coaches have said, having those tough road games, you have to take it and make it work for you and get better as opposed to beating you up. But having to play those games on the road makes it really, really difficult. And the only thing you can do is come together, and that's what we're hoping that we're going to be able to do, is that we're going to be able to come together, get better, and become a better, stronger team once we get into conference play, not a beat-up team as a result of the level of competition that you're playing.
We are joined now by Morgan State head coach Edward Davis Jr. Morgan State finished 13-17 overall and 10-6 in MEAC play last season. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Coach, you served as the interim head coach last season. You've since had the interim tag removed. Now you're the full-time head coach. Is there a difference in being interim versus not being interim, or are you just running the program the same way regardless?
There's a big difference not being an interim coach because you get an opportunity to bring in some people that fit your particular style and bring in people that fit your personnel and the style of your assistants. So it's a great opportunity for us to try to put a stamp on the Morgan State program with some kids that we think can hopefully get it done for us.
Talk about some of your key returners this season, including Brianna Farrar and Takira Williams, both of whom were named to preseason All-MEAC teams.
Well, with those 2 young ladies finishing up their last year here, first of all, that's a blessing because the program has had several kids not go the entire length of 4 years, but these 2 young ladies have been outstanding in just the academic area and also, giving their true devotion to the Morgan State program. BB, as we call Brendan Farrar, will be our senior point guard, finishing up. She's had a very good MEAC career, just haven't had the opportunity of advancing in the tournament. But this year we've got a little special focus with her trying to lead the team to that particular level. Takira Williams, 6'1" forward, very good player, has been kind of up and down throughout her career, but this year we've had a great summer and a great preseason, so we're looking forward to big things from Ty. But I think our biggest returning player is Alexis Spears, who since she came in with Spears, with Williams, and also Farrar during her particular time. She's back off an injury, 6'3" post player who averaged 10 points a game while she was healthy. That's a very big player coming back for us.
And Coach, talk about some of the newcomers with this team and who stood out to you within the first couple weeks of practice.
Well, one of the things that I really have to applaud my staff on is that we went out to try to get kids to enhance us in the offensive area. You know, over the past years, Morgan's seemed to struggle on the offensive end and had to put a lot more emphasis on the defensive side. So this year, I think, you know, my staff went out and we were able to get 4 young ladies that I think will make a difference in our program on the offense and definitely on the defensive end. The first young lady being Anisha Coleman. She's a 6'1" kid, a local kid out of Baltimore who elected to come to us as opposed to St. Bonaventure. She's going to be an impact player for us. Very aggressive, tough kid, a lot of street savvy to her. So we're very, very, very happy to have her. The other kid, Anissa Williams, who played at Gardner-Webb, sat out last year. Post player inside, a lot more fluid than what we've had. Hopefully she'll give us a lot more depth with scoring on the inside. The other young lady who we're just elated to have is a transfer from down in Florida, but originally played at Tennessee State. Naomi Bolasing, great shooter at 5'9", just helps us on the perimeter. Just places that we've just struggled with immensely over the past 2 or 3 years. But I think this young lady will come in and kind of loosen it up for us. And finally, we have a young lady who will back up Brendan at the point guard, Kayla Horn, who is a transfer out of Kansas Community College. Very strong kid out of Detroit. Once again, we're trying to change the mindset and the demeanor of a lot of these kids to a little bit more toughness where, you know, if offensively we're not able to get it done, hopefully we can get it done on the defensive end.
Coach, you have some non-conference games this season against the likes of Syracuse, Iowa, West Virginia. That's just to name a few. Talk about your schedule for the season.
Well, you know, it's like a normal schedule for me. I mean, having been in the MEAC and coached at Dell State and now at Morgan, these naturally, as you know, are guaranteed games. But at the same time, you know, we're going in to compete like most of the coaches in this conference. We're all going in to see if we can upset someone. We're all going in to test where we are offensively and defensively. So a lot of these games, are, like, as every coach has alluded to, are prelim games to try to help us, you know, come into this tough MEAC conference as we move along.
All right, Coach, thank you. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you can register for a question by pressing the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. If your question has been asked by another, you can withdraw your registration by pressing the 1 followed by the 3. If using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. Once again, to register a question is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. I am showing no questions at this time.
Coach, one last thing for me. I'd be remiss if we let this time go by without acknowledging former Morgan State women's basketball coach Donald Beasley, who unfortunately passed away over the summer. Can you talk about what he meant to you personally?
Well, very emotional question, not just for me, but for our entire staff. Coach Beasley was not only just the coach here, he's the all-time winningest coach here. His pedigree and the way he was will always stand out here at Morgan State University. Some of his former players are now working here, you know, in the capacity of academic support. And his legacy is just still in the Morgan area. For me, as a friend and an assistant coach of Coach Beasley, I found it to just try to keep his legacy and try to put us as close to winning a championship is what's one of the things he always wanted to do. So, you know, Coach Beasley's legacy has not left Morgan. He will always be honored and known here. And we're dedicating this entire season to Coach Beasley and his family.
We are now joined by Norfolk State head coach Larry Vickers. Spartans were tied for 4th in the MEAC at 9-7 last season, going 15-15 overall. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
Coach, last season was your first full year at the helm. Talk about the experience of being the coach for the full season.
Well, last year was good for us and me and my staff, and just me getting adjusted to little different things like how to handle practice players and length of practice, which was completely different from the year before when I was just kind of thrown into the mix. And so last year was good for us.
Kayla Roberts and Jordan Strode highlight your returners. Roberts was a preseason first-team selection. Strode was voted preseason third team. Talk about what you expect out of them and some of your other returners this season.
Well, Kayla going into year 4, her just being a senior leader and pushing everybody every day. Her goal for herself this year is to try and get 28 double-doubles, which I think was a good goal. After last year averaging 12 and 9. So, for her, just her versatility and trying to be a playmaker, I'm definitely excited to see her growth going into year 4. For Jordan, Jordan will have a completely different role for us this year. She's definitely an all-conference first-team talent. So we'll see if she can get there. As far as other returners go, Alexis Long, who averaged 6 points per game last year for us in 17 minutes. I'm excited to see her grow, and she really has to spread the floor for us. So hopefully she can do that, and then as well as bringing back Yasmin Hanna, who was out all year last year. She was all conference freshman team 2 years ago after a knee and leg reconstruction. So those will be our big returners from last year.
What about your newcomers? Who's new to the team that you look to have an impact this season?
Well, I'm definitely really excited about Khadijah Croker, a local transfer from Virginia Tech. She gives us size and athleticism at 6'3". She has all the pieces, so we'll see if she can put it all together. We also got a few junior college transfers with 3 years left. Raven Russell, she's a tough wing, 5'10", from Alabama. She played on one of the best junior colleges in the country. So they ended up losing in the Final Four. So we wanted to bring in some kids with that winning pedigree. We also brought in one of her teammates, Kendria Dawkins, 6'1" forward. We were one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country last year. So Kendria helped provide that three-point shooting and rebounding for us. And then the last newcomer would be Alexis Sparkman. Hit 153s her last 2 years in junior college. So she'll be a zone buster for us. So we're definitely excited about those 4.
Lastly, Coach, talk about your schedule for the upcoming season.
Well, I feel like our schedule is a little balanced. We do play a lot of games on the road, going to VCU and East Carolina. But we do also play some of the better teams in leagues like us. So Campbell and Navy, William and Mary, UNCG, High Point. So those will be good games that'll really test us for conference play.
Thank you, Coach. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. To withdraw your question, you may press the 1 followed by the 3. If using a speakerphone, please hit your handset before entering your request. Once again, to register a question is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. And we do have a question from David Hall with the Virginian Pilot. Please proceed.
Is this Coach Vickers?
Hello?
Hello, Coach Vickers?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, man, you're on a little early, so I missed the beginning. I apologize if you've addressed this, but how do you feel about being picked 4th?
I was a little surprised about being picked 4th. I think last year, the team did a good job. As far as last year's group, I told them their job was to change the culture here for the Norfolk State women's basketball program. We haven't won 15 games since 2001, 2002. So it was good to see that the league respect what we were able to accomplish last year and able to respect myself and some of our returning players going into this year.
And you had 2 MEAC selections. Do you feel like that's a fair amount?
Yes. I mean, 2 is better than none. So now, hopefully, I hope they use this as motivation. I know Jordan probably sees herself as a top 10, top 5 player in the league. And I know Kayla, she's pretty much accomplished everything except winning player of the year in this league. She was freshman of the year. She's been first team. So I know her main goal is probably to win player of the year. And the only way she'll be able to accomplish that is if we win a ton of games. So she understands that. And hopefully she's able to accomplish her goal.
And finally, with the success you had last year, how much do you think that made the players buy into what you're doing?
My group, since day one, is kind of bought in. It was a little easier for me as a new coach when the men's program is as successful as it's been. So they knew that I wouldn't accept nothing else but winning. And so hopefully they'll go into this year looking to get our main goal of 20 wins. That's our goal for this year. And, the program really hasn't done that since the late 90s. So hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that.
We're joined now by North Carolina A&T State head coach Tarrell Robertson. The Aggies went 8-8 in conference play last season, tying for 8th in the league standings, and went 14-18 overall. Morning, Coach. How are you doing?
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
Pretty good. Coach, the Aggies returned to the pack a little bit last season after a MEAC title and an NCAA tournament appearance in 2015-2016. Talk about last season a little bit.
Last season we had 8 freshmen and had a few returners from our team that had won the regular season and went on to win the tournament championship and represent the program in the NCAA tournament. I think, we had a lot of growing pains. I thought that when we were able to beat top 25 mid-major Ohio right before conference started, that all the growing pains were over. But obviously, our kids, going into our conference, I think they took a lot of things for granted. One, in how great our conference is and how great the coaches are in our conference. And we got what we got. And I think it was a learning experience. Now those 8 freshmen are now, 8 sophomores. And, 2 young women in particular that were on the championship team, Kayla Green and Consuelo Story, have done a heck of a job at this point in terms of leadership and just really showing them what it takes to be an elite Division I player, in this program, as well as just what D1 basketball is about. There's just a lot of accountability things that weren't taking place last year. I guess we were still, celebrating having won the year before, but we're on the right path right now.
One bright spot from last season was you did upset the number 2 seed in the conference tournament in the quarterfinals. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, we always try to play our best basketball towards the end of the season, and obviously with the regular season being over and we just had a tough loss at home against our conference rival and state rival, North Carolina Central, it was easy to kind of, reset the button for them, which, they were able to pull off 2 wins against Central, who we had just lost to, and then obviously against the Howard team that had beat us at Howard, who was really good and had the, the conference player of the year, at that time. And even the game against Hampton, was a really good game. Again, Coach Six did a heck of a job, and I told him after the game, and what he was dealing with as far as injuries and forcing us to 30 turnovers and, just really making us uncomfortable. So there's a lot from last year that I can, use to feed the fuel in terms of getting these young women ready, for, this season, this year.
What are your expectations coming into the season?
What they are every year, to get better as the season progresses and, to be champions at the end of the day.
And Coach, you were picked to finish 3rd in the conference this season. You did pick up 5 first-place votes, but given the state of the conference, is that a fair assessment of where everyone thinks your team is?
I honestly don't really care in terms of, the preseason rankings, like before that, we were picked to finish first the last 3 years and only was able to finish first one time, and that was our tie with, being co-champions with Bethune. At the end of the day, we as coaches got to prepare our kids, got to pray that we don't have injuries, and, you got to have a little bit of luck. So in terms of where we're picked, you use it for what you need to use it for in terms of getting your young women ready. But outside of that, for me, we're just trying to get better every day and hope we can stay injury-free, and when it's all said and done, we're crowned as champions.
Talk about some of your newcomers. Who stood out to you so far in early preseason practice?
Two young women in particular that are healthy right now. Our two freshmen are out with injury, so we'll see, where they are. But two young women that sat out last year on our bench. One being Secoria Foy, who's a sophomore this year. She transferred in from Alabama, and I will, the one thing that I would say that's most impressive is her talent. She's still got to be consistent in her effort and just understanding what the expectations are here. But one young lady that I don't have that issue with is another transfer for Appalachian State. Her name is Micaiah Wilson. She'll be a sophomore. She won't play until we end this semester. But her energy, her competitiveness, is definitely becoming infectious, to our program, and I'm excited to have her. Another young lady that's not necessarily new, but got injured right before she had her career highs against Morgan State last year, Sharnice Tyler. She's working hard to get back, and we expect to have her hopefully by by December. She's in some workouts, but not all. She's not doing anything with contact. She's getting in shooting drills, and just a really tough kid, and I think she was someone that we really needed down the stretch last year to help out Alexis Lasears, who, was named second-team all-conference, and just like all those other freshmen, from last year, Alexis needs to also mature a little bit more and figure out what it takes to compete on this level on a day-to-day basis.
Looking at your schedule for the coming season, your non-conference slate includes games against Auburn and Georgia. Talk about your schedule.
As all coaches have talked about, in terms of scheduling and what it prepares us for, the one thing that stands out for our non-conference schedule for me, and I know a lot of my counterparts will attest to this, out of 12 games, we have 7 at home, 2 are neutral, and 3 are actually on the road. So that gives us a high chance of winning a lot of those games. So that's the most exciting thing about our non-conference schedule this year with this group.
Coach, one last thing from me. What is the most important factor in North Carolina A&T State returning to the upper echelon of the conference, not just in regular season play, but in the tournament as well?
Just accountability. That sums it up. Accountability for the the expectations that we have, and we didn't have that last year, and so far so good. Obviously, when you start handing out playing time, people get different. So we'll see, but definitely just the accountability of what the expectations are for this program.
We are joined now by North Carolina Central first-year head coach Trisha Stafford-Odom. The Lady Eagles went 7-9 in conference play and 8-21 overall last season. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thank you.
First of all, welcome to the MEAC.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What have you noticed as you prepare for your first season at the helm?
Well, I noticed we have a lot of talent on our roster, but we're searching to find out how to use it and what's the best way to get the girls in the right positions.
Who are some of the returning players that you're looking to contribute this season?
Probably most of the contribution from a returning player will come from our junior guard, Rodnisha Martin. She's much more athletically inclined than other players on the roster. And other players that I've seen as a guard, 5'5", she has incredible athleticism and leaping ability, and she has a real knack for shooting the basketball. So it's almost surprising to me, her statistics and her averages from last year, because what I see is she's capable of being an explosive scorer. Deja McCain, also, her stats don't indicate what we've been able to see she's capable of bringing to the table. So we look forward to those two in the season that they're going to have.
What about some of the newcomers you got coming in? What players have you been able to bring in since you've been at Central?
Well, we came in with a freshman, Alyssa Thompson from Charlotte, North Carolina. She's long, she's lanky, she's very athletic, but a lot of raw talent that needs to be developed. She's soaking everything up like a sponge, but of course she's making every other day freshman mistakes, which usually just tends to be focus. But she's going to be capable of running the floor and bringing some presence to our offensive rebounds. Brought in 3 California kids, all from junior college transfer situations, and they're perimeter players with one capable, Daria, of being a double-double. She's an undersized post player, but we've already seen her get into better shape and try to use her body in situations that I think are going to be advantageous to us. Kyra Benton and Sammy Oliver Alexander, they're players that are capable of running the lane and shooting the ball and getting into the paint and being big-time presence on defense.
Coach, talk about your schedule for the coming season. You have non-conference games against Oregon State, Iowa State, East Carolina. Talk about the schedule going forward.
Well, I'm just excited to dive in. I think anybody that we face at this point, preseason and during the conference, is going to be preparation to the bigger picture of where we're going as a program. But the preseason games I'm excited about because we have to jump in and be faced with toughness immediately, speed, experience, and in the Oregon State team, as one example, a team that has Final Four experience. So it's an immediate and rude awakening to the level of basketball we're trying to play here at Central, facing the talent, the skill sets, and like I said, the size and speed of a whole nother level.
Coach, one last question from me. Central was picked to finish 13th in the preseason poll this season. Do you use that sort of thing as motivation, or is that something that, as a coaching staff and as a program, you don't pay attention to?
Oh, absolutely, I pay attention to it. Me personally, I'm a competitor, and everyone I've surrounded myself with, as far as staff and director of basketball operations concerned, we're definitely motivated by the probably justified disrespect, if I could call it that. The history shows that, Central has struggled as a program. But for me, automatically, I feel as if we're bringing in a different mentality, mindset, and culture that without knowing, we believe should automatically change the expectation. But until people know and see the work that we've put in, I'm going to call it a justified disrespect. Yes, it's motivating. Hopefully it's motivating to my players, but the real focus is the day-to-day improvement. I mean, we've got juniors that now have new life and new confidence levels, and we're putting them in positions to score. Jayla Calhoun, I've got Jada Blow, qualified bona fide scorer who now is shooting the ball at an elevated level. So, we let people do their jobs as far as the rankings, and everybody has their opinion, but we know that in the work we've put in on a day-to-day basis, that'll be a thing of the past, predicting us to be a 13th finish.
We're joined now by Savannah State head coach Cedric Baker. The Lady Tigers finished tied for 6th in the MEAC at 8-8 last season, going 12-19 overall. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing, Mr. Cunningham?
pretty good. Coach, to start off, take us through last season for us, if you could.
Okay, last season, of course, last year we had a group of seniors. Our expectations going into last year's season, of course, was to try to get back to, playing for, of course, a conference title, a MEAC championship. And as a coach and staff, of course, every day is different. You take it one day at a time. Of course, we had high expectations of really competing, for a championship. But, we just seemed to not get healthy last season. We could never really get an identity as a team due to just season-ending injuries or either, injuries at key points during the year. So last year was just a disappointing year, but, unforeseen circumstances, with the year. But as a program, I think we really, grew. It ended on a great note because as a coach, of course, our jobs is particularly to win games and graduate kids. And we graduated eight seniors, from our program, which definitely helps recruiting, future talent, because at the end of the day, that's why the young ladies are here, to win games and graduate. So disappointing, season athletically, but ended on a high note, just watching those kids go across the stage and earn their college degrees and go on to be productive young women in our society.
You mentioned all of those seniors you had last year. Who are some of your returners, and particularly who's highlighting those groups?
Well, this year we only returned 4 players to our roster. We have Lauren Fields, who's going to be a rising senior point guard, received limited playing time, of course, last year, but shared that responsibility with Taylor Shaw. And then we have a young lady, local kid, Jackie Anderson, who's Savannah's Region Player of the Year. She's a junior, rising junior coming into the season. We'll definitely highlight, her shooting ability, being able to, stretch defenses, things of that nature. And then we have Raynetta Phillips, which is a redshirt senior. She's 6'8" post player, coming back, returning to the roster. And then we have a returning sophomore, Praise Russell. They've all had, pretty good, off-season experience. They went through preseason conditioning pretty well. But right now, I would say who's really been leading us, surprisingly, is Praise Russell. She's been providing a lot of leadership for us at the point guard position. She comes from a well-decorated, high school program, which is Reebok, who won a national championship out of Jacksonville. Didn't have any stats for us, of course, last year, but a lot of times she does just the intangibles and allowing the program to flourish and to keep moving, and just been great, for our locker room, being that we have, of course, 10 newcomers on our roster. So, it's been a great preseason, and I'm really excited and waiting with great anticipation on, what these young ladies are able to do this coming up season.
You mentioned the 10 newcomers. Who stands out among that group here in the early going?
It's been great. It's been great. We have 10 newcomers. Of course, we have a new addition, Anaya Odom, who's leading, point guard out of Washington, D.C., out of Friendship Collegiate Academy. Great kid, very explosive, one-on-one type player. We also signed a number 33 ranked kid by ESPN out of St. Louis, which is Nadia Farmer. She's about 6 foot guard, spot up shooter. Things have been kind of overwhelming for her at this point, just being a freshman, with class, study hall, weights, individuals, practice, things of that nature. But definitely a great out perimeter shooter. Then we also have Jasmine Bartlett, who's a guard out of Laney High School, very decorated program here in the state of Georgia, who's won like 2-3 state championships over a 4-year period. So we're excited about those kids. And our most experienced player players. We have one junior college player, which is Denija Scott out of Baltimore City Community College, who's going to, play some stretch for us. Very athletic, has a lot of natural ability. We're looking for her to provide great leadership for us. And then we also have a transfer who will be playing right away for us, which we've been blessed with her situation, and that's Kaylee Allen, who's out of Chicago State. She'll be, a junior for us as well. So we definitely upgraded at our forward position, small and big forward positions. I thought last year that was a challenge for us, but this year we're able to really be productive at those spots with the loss of Jeremica Edwards, and then we had Ayanna Peel last year who tore her ACL, who never played for us. So we definitely need to address that position in terms of just scoring, rebounding, and these two kids, they bring that skill set along with their previous collegiate experience. So I think they're going to definitely be a great support cast for the talented freshmen that we have, and that's going to help, such a young roster. We probably have one of the youngest rosters in the country right now.
And this seems to be a theme for the conference this year, but your non-conference schedule in particular, I'm looking, you got games against Florida, Wisconsin, Oregon State, and the defending national champions in South Carolina. Talk about your schedule for the season.
My experience, Mr. Cunningham, I just firmly believe it's not a cliche. It's from experience. I just believe if you intend to be the best, you have to play the best. So we've never had the attitude of running away from competition, because the MEAC conference is definitely going to provide, with the environment itself, tough competition, with Hampton University and North Carolina A&T and so forth. So we definitely try to put our kids, of course, in those environments that we would possibly see if we do win the MEAC tournament. And our experience playing a schedule when we had the opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament in 2015, we played well because our kids was acclimated to those type of environments. So we're definitely going to go on the road and play, of course, defending national champion, which is South Carolina. We played them in December. They were in the national tournament. We're also going to travel out to Oregon State, which is a member of a Power 5 conference. We're going to play them as well. We are playing University of Florida, who we defeated in 2015. We're going to play them again here in Savannah, along with Providence and Florida. So we have a tough schedule, but of course, 6 out of those 8 games will be played in the state of Georgia. And anytime our fans and students can travel and provide that support, it always just takes the kids' level of confidence to another level. So I'm excited about the schedule, excited about the challenge. We start out, of course, with our exhibition season. We're going to play a few different teams. Wesleyan College, which is local nearby us in Macon. And then we have an old-time rivalry game when Savannah State was a part of the SIAC. So Payne College is going to travel down. So they're only about 2 hours away, so that should be a great environment for our young kids. Before we open up on November 10th with LaGrange College, and then we'll go into Division I competition. We travel to Alabama State University, who's definitely have a well-experienced staff. They've been at the top of their league, which is the Southwest Atlantic Conference, the SWAC, or either they have finished at the top or they've won their league or tournament. So that's going to be a great challenge, for our young roster kicking off the season. And then we're going to participate in a Savannah Invitational Tournament here over the Thanksgiving holiday, which we have University of Florida, Providence College, and the University of Richmond and Wright State. So we're excited. Of course, that win against Florida in 2015 would definitely be a springboard, but they have a new coach, new staff, and I'm excited about getting in there, getting in the film room, and seeing what they're all about. And then we'll, of course, have a big rivalry game with Georgia Southern University, which is only 40 minutes up the road. So I'm excited about the schedule because the travel is really good, and that's big for us. Fans and students are able to come out and see the young ladies perform.
Our final coach's interview of today's teleconference will be with South Carolina State head coach Doug Robertson, Jr. South Carolina State finished 2-14 in conference play last season, going 5-23 overall. Good afternoon, Coach. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Doing well.
Pretty good. Coach, give us a short little recap about last season, what some of your struggles were.
Struggles were, I tell you, we had I took on additional duties last year, and I was acting athletic director as well as doing basketball, so I was kind of stretched out a little bit. We were at a small roster size, and we had a bunch of things going on, and it wasn't so much the kids. It was a lot that I was doing for the university as well. So, I hope that we have addressed some of those issues this year. We've upgraded in some areas in terms of our guard play and our post play in terms of rebounding. So I hope we have addressed some of our shortfalls from last season. And I'm no longer the athletic director, so that should help a whole lot.
Well, talk about some of your returners, most notably Bryisha Blair, who was just recently voted second-team preseason All-MEAC.
Right, yeah, Bryisha Blair, I mean, she's an extremely athletic kid, understands the game very well, and she scores the ball. So she's a much-needed returner for us for this upcoming season, as well as Quanah Mary from Orangeburg, South Carolina. She's going to be looked upon to do a lot more scoring this year as well as rebound the ball.
Talk about some of your newcomers. Who stood out to you so far in the first couple weeks of practice?
First couple of weeks for us, it's been Kamani Jenkins, young lady from right here in South Carolina, from the Whale Branch area in Beaufort. She's doing the kind of the point guard and some off guard scoring duties for us, but she's come a long way from where I saw her when she was in high school, and she went off to junior college for 2 years, and now she's here with us. But she's actually picking up the scheme and kind of understanding some things and really doing a good job with just being an active player on the floor, on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively.
You open up your schedule this season on the road against Virginia Tech. Talk about that challenge and your schedule as a whole.
Okay. No, we open up on November 12th with Georgia Tech, not Virginia Tech.
My apologies.
That's gonna be that's gonna be a tough one. We're gonna enjoy going down there playing against some ACC competition, and hopefully we can come out with escape with a victory. That's gonna be a good task for us in terms of what we got to do with our upcoming conference season. So it's a great measuring tool for us.
Thank you, Coach. We will now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you. As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, to register a question, you may press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. You will hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. If your question has been asked by another and you would like to withdraw your registration, it's the 1 followed by the 3. If using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. Once again, to register a question, it's the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. I am showing no questions at this time.
Coach, one last question from me. What's the most important thing your team has to do in order to make a run at the upper echelon of the MEAC this season?
We're definitely going to have to rebound the ball and play with intensity for 40 minutes. There were some times last year where we were in ball games and just some kind of way just fizzled out at the end. If we can rebound the ball and defend a lot better and play with a lot more intensity, I feel like we can break that up across to that top half of our league.